Dungeons and Dragons Adventurer. Issue 16. Now it's time for issue 16. With no dice this time, some lovely tokens. So let's just take a closer look at them in the magazine. Here we go, so I'll start with a nice little inspiration tokens here. And we've got 5 of them here. And obviously these are just used for marking for characters of inspiration on the board. And it's nice to see that some of the small size characters, you can actually put the standee in here. Some of the medium ones, like the humanoids, don't really fit in there, which is unfortunate. And I think they're all the same size. Yeah, it would have been nice if I could have made different sizes per thing, just so you could have different, but at least my halflings are always easy to get inspiration, I guess. And then you have ones you just stick next to them, you know, put it on top maybe. Does that work? There we go. There you go. See, perfect. So you can just carry around inspiration on a backpack. Excellent. I'll definitely notice it then. Anyway, moving on to the mag. This nicely has a lot of DM stuff included, which is one of the main things that seems to be good about the magazine, that and the adventure. So it's going to have us like introducing players, running without them, and taverns and contests. And a few other things to go with that as well. But we start off with sage advice, and that's working together. Just says about there's several scenarios where you might need to work together, combat, or tasks and social interactions. And you can have some group checks where if multiple characters are doing it, you just need to everyone do the check, and at least half need to pass. We might have had one of those in a previous adventure maybe? I'll have to look back and check. Many examples given here, like for combat, you've got many things you can use to buff your allies. So spells, bards who can do bardic inspiration, and just help action and other combat tactics you can use. Talking a bit more as well about the group checks, but also using the help action to give your allies advantage in doing checks, and just a bit of role-playing ways to do it as well. Now that we get to DM bit, we go to Managing Monsters Part 3. So we continue to look at what the monsters can do. So this section just goes through traits to do with monsters, and some are used for outside of combat. Monsters' actions, it talks a bit about there. Mostly refers to spells and iconic monster actions. You can swap spells out if you've got in-game meanings and stuff. And the bonus actions, which are going to be listed on the monster stat blocks, you know they've got them. Limited usage stuff as well, this is covered here. So X per day is the number of time monsters can do them between long rests. And recharge with a number. If you can roll a number, you can then use the power or the ability again. So if you roll well, you can do it every turn. But now we're going to discuss probably what is the most important out of game rule, missing players and new players. And it's got a nice thing there about the game night. And this has happened to me, where I've been unable to make some D&D sessions. So you'd have someone missing 1 week, added the next. What can you do about it? One of the things it says here is, someone else could play the character and run it for them. Just make sure they're okay with it. Or as a DM you could, but a DM's got a lot to do. But definitely make sure they're okay before you go running off getting their characters stabbed down a dark alley. And then moving on, you get the going solo, and that's just going, the playing character's not there, he's having his own little adventure or somewhere else. Hopefully if the party can manage without them, it's fine, and then they can catch up later. And a nice thing there, they could actually make like an intelligence check or something, say they were gathering information. So when they come back, they've actually got something useful to show from it. Or simply they never left, they're just in the background, not really doing much. The character's still there, just casually finds some goblins, but he doesn't kill anyone, takes no damage, he's not important. And then when you reconvene, they're back there, and suddenly they're like, oh yeah, I'm here, you've just been ignoring me for the whole 3 hours you were playing. And we also have entering new players. Mostly this is just like, the player's a stranger, the nemesis has wronged them. I'll talk about your backstory, this is one of them. Or more interestingly, about the side story where they come in as first level and everyone else just rolls first level characters. So you take a break from the main story and just play a different one. Which works nicely because then if you keep on attending, you eventually can catch up to your main party in the main story in a way. And it might be they're new to D&D, they don't really like it. They might leave after one session. So you haven't really wasted anything and you've just had a nice little fun on the side one. Which could take place in a tavern and an inn, as talked about over the page. This doesn't have much rules reference, more just descriptive stuff about, what would a tavern look like? Describe it to your players. Maybe over the page we'll have a bit more about taverns and inns. Now what can we do at taverns? Here's got all the important stuff. Mainly you can use it for rest. Rumours to get new plot hooks. I've done that one before. Gathering information, which can probably be like mid-quest. You might intimidate people, persuade them, pay them, just sit for gossip, or distractions or diversions if you want a bit of a break from an ongoing storyline. If you don't follow quest hooks, you can still move the story forward using them as well, considering the butterfly effect. But this just makes me think of Lord of the Rings with hobbits dancing and still meeting Aragorn in the room. A famous inn here is Yawning Portal, which goes to the Undermountain in Waterdeep. And it's got prices here for getting rooms and type of lodgings. Of course, the new one added now is stabling, which is 5 silver pieces. So that's for your animals rather than just the normal lodging for yourselves. When we talked about lifestyles, stabling is never mentioned, so it's got a nice price for it there, as well as all this stuff up here. And once you've stayed at the inns, you then get to do any nearby contests, challenges and tournaments, like the one featured here, David v Goliath. So this covers about how in normal tests you have a DC check that you're trying to do, but actually some checks are contests, so contested checks. So say if you two are playing a game, you might both use the skill for the game on it, or you might have perception versus stealth when one of you is trying to find a hider, which we've covered before. As it says, grappling. So grappling was a contest, and now we're just looking more at specific contests, I guess. There's a variety of these, like they're listed down here for challenging your players. The thing to know is opposing goals, so normally they'll be against each other. Whoever wins the check's going to win their thing, such as a monster trying to push the door and the party trying to keep it closed. But a tie in the skill check means everything remains the same as before. So in this case, if there's a tie, the monster doesn't force the door open, the party don't keep it closed, but it's still a win for the party because the door hasn't opened. So yeah, going back to the challenges anyway, so these are some of the stuff that as a DM you might give to the players to do. So, you know, gambling, eating contest, darts, jousting, staring contest. Although interestingly, I think like this jousting check, I'm not sure if it's the same or different from the jousting we did back in the circus tournament carnival thing. Who knows? Although I do like how the tavern ventures just riding on the back of another party member and trying to knock each other off with chairs. That sounds like quite an enjoyable one. Let's move on from that then, and now move to factions, more than just a social club. So obviously we've encountered a lot of factions already. We've had some lore about it, and as it says there, in encounter 3 we were invited to join the Harpers. Still nothing ever came from that. Whether or not we joined the Harpers doesn't matter so far. Maybe now we know about factions, it might do. You get some sort of benefits from factions as well, like you might get extra bonuses from missions, you can get training, and the little box here does describe about renown and responsibilities. So you get renown, it's an optional rule, but you can get renown in a particular faction to earn favours and reputation, depends on what you do. And this is something I've had sort of before, not just in this, but in like games and stuff where you've got several factions and you get renown in one of them. It lets you get special perks, and if you get enough renown, you can do sort of special exclusive jobs. Not mentioned here, but in the other games I've played, if you go up in renown in one faction, you might start to go down in another. Mainly for that, I'm thinking of like GTA 2 back in the day, where you could like run over all the Yakuza, which would absolutely decimate your renown with them, but put you in high regards with one of the other ones. So you get the top of mission, but then the Yakuzas will hunt you down all the time. And something like that I've always tried to integrate, which I think is quite cool. And you get responsibilities finally as well, before I get sidetracked. So you might even get called upon other matters, even ones you don't want to do, if you become very responsible. All up to the DM. Breaking down the 5 factions of Faerun, I don't know if it's the only factions or the main factions, but the Emerald Enclave, who are mostly nature, and nicely for these factions, it also gives you like the sort of classes that typically go to them. So they've got druids, rangers and barbarians, which makes sense. Harpers like to use spies and magic and get knowledge, so bards and wizards. Not rogues, that's odd, for sneaking around. I didn't say sneaking. Lords Alliance, these are fighters and sorcerers, and there are lots of politicians and governors. Order of the Gauntlet, these are mostly the militia, paladins, clerics and monks. They believe in justice. And the Zhentarim these are the ones, secretive, opportunic, unscrupulous. So here's the rogues and also the warlocks. And the top tip, if you join new factions, list them in your allies and organisations section, along with any useful acquaintances you might have discovered along the way. One useful acquaintance might be, again, a Genasi, which is a race I've never heard of before, or a species, sorry, I've never heard of it. Although the full game rules are in Modern Canaan Presents Monsters of the Multiverse. So that's pretty cool. They've added a species like that I've never seen before into the magazine. I've never heard them before, but here we are. And it's got all the description here. And they're actually related to genies, so these guys probably have some sort of control over the elements by the looks of it. And they could be directly descended from a genie, they could come from some other Genasi, so might be some genies in the past, or just people who've been near a lot of genie-infused magic that's helped magically infuse their children. Looking at these guys, as they're all descended from the genies and the jinns and the Ifrit and stuff, who are all elementals, they all have some sort of like natural elemental affinity. So they'll be related to one of the four. And everything there is all similar, like fire ones are immune to fire and air can hold their breath. And they all have sort of like those elemental effects. And unlike the genie counterparts who are naturally drawn towards good or evil, these guys aren't, so they can be whatever they want to be. And we might encounter some of these people in the Sea of Swords we cover in the lore section. So now we get to talk about the big sea right next to where all the action's been taking place this whole time. And it's nice to see the sea's actually got a couple of boundaries. It's described here, mostly islands at its north, south, east and west sort of areas, which helps keep the Sea of Swords in place. But be careful, there's someplace, Oman's Isle, where there's giants who hurl boulders, and there's pirate isles with a mix of people who will be nasty to you, and so on. And then over the page, the Welcoming Isles, some nice places to go. The purple rocks of the Northlander Isles provide welcome shelter, although there's an odd thing going on there. Maybe we'll find that out later. And Orlumber is the best place to repair your ship. And so now we move on to the adventure portion of the magazine. And as normal, this is for the Dungeon Master's eyes only, so if you plan on playing this, use the chapters to skip ahead. Otherwise, let's go into here and say hello to Gimli. And unsurprisingly, this night to remember is a night in the tavern. And we finally reached Neverwinter, so we've concluded the journey that we started a couple of adventures ago. So here we have our fun tavern encounter, and it's in a pirate ship converted into a tavern. Pretty cool. There's going to be a lot of stat blocks over the page according to this. Give me some guards and bandits and a captain, I guess. But when you arrive, you arrive in Neverwinter, and if Orem's still with you, he'll pay you. Otherwise, the guard suggests to go here for the night. And it's got a lot of encounters to have. So you've got some NPCs you can encounter with, and you've got some rumours, and there's a lot of rumours here, and they all deal with encounters that are coming up, apart from the lies. But it's planned that we're going to be in Neverwinter a while by looks of it. Encounters 18, 23, 24, 26, and a later encounter don't even have numbered yet. So they might not even be sure where that is, or they don't want to give it away. Or it might be some big, long, overarching story that deals with a lot. But yeah, there's quite a lot going on in Neverwinter, so I imagine we're going to be here a while. Maybe next issue's lore will deal with Neverwinter. We'll find out. And at some point, we're going to get an arm racing contest where we get introduced to Umi, a water genasi. And so moving on, we get to the final bit of the encounters, and the southern end actually. So you've got a game of chance, and in the evening, we're just going to have a bar fight, 8 drunken bandits, between a couple of other bandits in the pub and the adventurers. Although I wouldn't want to go near them with their 112 armour class. I'd just go hide in my room, to be honest. But yes, you can pick up some Beats of Leviathan slang. You can also get Rust Bag of Tricks. I thought it was Rust Bag of Tricks. I don't know why it's called Rust Bag of Tricks, not just Bag of Tricks. Oh, it's made from rust-coloured cloth, so it's a rust-coloured Bag of Tricks. And you can just throw creatures at people. Also, remind the players that if they reduce someone to 0 hit points, they can knock them out with melee attack. I guess it's so they just don't murder all the bandits in the pub and just knock them out and let the bouncer deal with them. And we've got our Bard stat block over here for Elven Bard on the previous page. And the final run of stat blocks on the back page, where we've got stats for the guards who we'll encounter now in the town, and Captain Harag from the tavern, who just slightly annoys me with his multi-attack, where it makes 3, 2 with its scamator or his. That its annoys me. Yeah, that's all the stat blocks. Alright, that was all the stat blocks. There were some quite obvious ones there. I'll look at it a bit more deeper when I go for the errata video at the end of the adventure. Right, issue 16 done and dusted. Issue 17 up next, with Druids, Displace the Beasts and Magic Items. And yeah, that's going to be when I get back to my holiday time. So as normal anyway, there'll be videos popping up to follow this magazine here, to see this magazine there. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Hope to catch you soon.